Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Coffee Milk Hour. I'm Puffy, joined here as always by...
I'm Jerry.
Yeah, that's who he is. Happy Wednesday. How's everybody's week going so far?
They're not going to answer because they're not talking to us.
Well, fuck, dude. You know, at least I can ask and, show that I care because I do care.
I don't think you do.
I do.
I think it's just a formality.
Just because I don't care about your week doesn't mean I don't care about theirs.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, it's Wednesday. We're going to talk about things today, and they're going to be... pretty neutral, I think.
We're going to be as neutral as we possibly can.
Right. Now, we hate some of these people.
We hate some of these people.
So, forgive us if our emotions get a little bit of the better of us. But, we've done our research. We've laid it all out, and we're hoping that this can be an actual, non-biased discussion.
So, what we're going to do today is we're going to run through the presidential candidates. And I don't just mean Clinton and Trump. We're also talking about Gary Johnson, who is a Libertarian candidate, and Jill Stein, who is running as the Green Party candidate. We're going to go through some of their issues, the good and the bad, mainly with Clinton and Trump. There's not too much dirt on the other two yet, at least not out there in the media. We're going to run through their issues, and then we're just going to kind of debate them as a candidate, and then compare and contrast at the end where we feel they stand based on issues and their websites, which are cool. Go check out their websites.
Right. Now, we know this might seem like a boring episode, but we feel that this is important to do, mainly because if you turn on any of the mainstream media bullshit on any TV channel, all you're going to see is Clinton and Trump all day, every day. You're not going to hear much about Jill Stein and the Green Party. You're not going to hear a lot about Gary Johnson and the Libertarian Party. And it's important for you to know that outside of the two choices, there are other options.
And they're polling at near double digits, both of these candidates. So we may see 4 candidates up on the debate stage come fall. So right. These are relevant topics. So to get things started, we're going to start off with former Secretary of State,
there you go.
Hillary Clinton. So all of this information we just pulled directly off their website. So there's no media bias here. This is what each candidate says that they're going to support as far as their websites say. So Hillary Clinton, her major focal points. Number 1, she's going to end Citizens United, which is basically the Supreme Court upholding that corporations can donate large sums of money and that super PACs can be formed to donate large sums of money to campaigns. So that's going to be campaign finance reform. Her next initiative is going to be jobs through green energy. So by creating new clean energy sector jobs, by expanding that industry,
right.
She expects that new jobs will be created as we phase out fossil fuels and everything else.
Right. She's also looking to go with some sort of quality education beginning at 4 years old and adequate childcare associated with that.
And obviously, stricter gun legislation. She's going to look for expanded background checks and just stricter laws as far as the Second Amendment goes. Next, no student should borrow for higher education in their own state. And she'd like to see give current students who have debt the advantage to refinance current loans.
She is also pushing for paid family leave of up to 12 weeks, regardless of the job that you have. And she is looking at automatic voter registration for 18-year-olds. You guys have seen through the news all of the voter issues and polling issues throughout this entire primary on both sides. And it looks like she's looking to fix that. You turn 18, you're automatically registered as a voter with one of your parties. You don't have to go through any of this rigmarole that you've seen through all of this primary stage. And finally, she wants to uphold the Dodd-Frank and hold individuals accountable for irresponsible actions.
So that's like if the corporation does something wrong, she would look to prosecute individuals as opposed to the corporation.
Right.
Which is different than current law states. So those are her stances, as can be found on her website. There's many, many more. She probably has the most comprehensive website as far as total number of issues goes. So there's a lot of dirt on Hillary Clinton.
Well, she's been in political career for 40-something years.
Yes.
So of course there's going to be dirt.
So the biggest and perhaps most well known is the Benghazi scandal, which I've talked about before, and I just don't think that there's any merit to. I think mistakes were made.
Yes.
Personally, perhaps she exercised bad judgment. However, multiple congressional hearings have found absolutely nothing to prove that she did not do everything within her immediate power to make sure that people remain safe there.
Right, and one of the big things here is that we know that there isn't a single politician in the world of politics that isn't corrupt in some shape or form. My mentality has always been pretty straightforward. If you can prove they've done something wrong, prove they've done something wrong. But as is with our legal system, you are innocent until proven guilty. And after all of these meetings and all of these hearings from both the liberal side, the conservative side, and nobody's found anything substantiating that she did any wrongdoing in Benghazi, you have to accept that verdict.
Yeah, and trust me, if the Republicans could put a nail in her over this, they would. They would have already.
Oh, yeah.
They would have already. The next most popular, I guess, or most well known is the email scandal, where she deleted emails off a personal email server. She was not supposed to have a personal email server, certainly, and she may have sent some classified information out over that email. Although, as it stands right now, anything that has been found was reclassified at a later date. So there's no, again, direct evidence that she did anything to break protocol. Again, perhaps some bad judgment until the FBI concludes their investigation. We'll see if they pursue criminal activity over the emails.
And so you guys know, this is definitely focused around her, but I don't want to say anything that may get me in trouble with my experiences with the DOD and DOJ and all of that, but let's just say that there may or may not be multiple circumstances daily where people are using devices that they probably shouldn't be to send out emails and correspondence that they definitely shouldn't be over unregistered servers. This is not a localized event. This is not something that happened one time with one person. It's happened with people in her position prior. It's happening with people in other positions of high-ranking authority right now.
In fact, John Kerry used personal email until they changed the protocol at the State Department so that you cannot use personal email anymore. So even her, even the person who followed her, just can't think of the word right now.
Right.
Was doing the same thing. Not to excuse her action, just putting the facts out there. She's received some flack over her husband in several ways.
First, I don't understand this one. Bill Clinton is the man.
Well, first she stayed with him, and a lot of people say that an empowered woman would not stay with a man that cheated on her. The Republicans like to attack this very often, probably because she is so popular among women. They're trying to kind of drive a wedge in there.
Do you know what's so funny about that, though? Is that these same people that talk about, oh, well, if she was empowered, she wouldn't have stayed with him because she had an affair. But these same people are, like, supporting, and I hate to bring celebrities into this or the fact that I even know this, but they're, like, empowering Beyonce because she decided to stay with Jay-Z even after he allegedly cheated on her, which, again, this goes back to I don't fucking care about celebrities' lives, but you cannot split hairs like that. You know what I mean? Like, you empower one, you empower the other. Why do they empower the musician over the politician? Because the musician is making fucking boatloads of money, and, like, they can justify that action. So it's just, that whole argument to me is just stupid. Like, it's a personal life thing that shouldn't be involved in the world of politics. There's
some controversy over their fund, the Clinton Global Initiative, where there's speculation that foreign governments, such as Saudi Arabia, may have donated money to the Clinton Global Initiative, and that money may have found its way into her campaign finances. Obviously, you cannot accept money from foreign governments if you're running a presidential campaign. So that's being looked into. Again, there's no direct evidence there. There's a lot of question marks surrounding Hillary Clinton, but there's yet to be any direct answers.
Right, like a single shred of proof towards anything malicious or illegal in any way. The final thing is, I'm sure you've seen this on the internet a lot, especially if you use Facebook. A lot of people like to bring up the rape case that she was a public defender for years and years ago, early on in her career. This one is on here not for us to provide an opinion, but simply to just diffuse. I put it on here. You know, I don't like Hillary Clinton. That's not news to anybody, but I believe in facts and the truth. The simple truth of this is that early on in her career, she was hired on as a public defender, and what you may not know is that you do not get to pick and choose which cases you take as a public defender. If the system tells you you're doing this case, you're doing this case. 1. Hillary Clinton did not laugh about the girl getting raped or the guy getting off. That didn't happen, period. 2, she did not prove the man innocent. She simply exploited the fact that the evidence was mishandled and all of the circumstances around that became circumstantial and were thrown out of court.
Basically, the prosecution didn't have enough evidence to convict the accused of doing what they said he did. And as a public defender, you just do your job. And a lot of people end up public defenders at a school.
Right, exactly. Now, if you want to be mad at someone over this situation, because it is a terrible thing that it happened, but be mad at the broken system. Don't be mad at the person who was doing their job. After all, isn't that what you would want in a president, is somebody who's going to do their job regardless? That's just my thought on that. Oh boy, moving on. Here we go.
All right, so Donald Trump, pulled from Donald Trump's websites, not anywhere near as comprehensive as Secretary Clinton's.
No, it's very weird looking.
It is a little weird. So he had several topics up there, 7 total. We are going to talk about 6. So he said the wall, pay for the wall. That's his first issue. We all know about this. I'm not going to get into it.
Right.
The second issue, specifically, he says China trade reform. He wants to protect American intellectual property and stop the Chinese from violating our intellectual property. He's going to make China stop currency manipulation and call them out on it. He's going to tell China to raise their standards for pollution and for labor wages in order for us to bring back American jobs. And then he's going to lower corporate taxes in America to help us. So the only thing he's really going to do in America is lower corporate taxes. He's going to tell everybody else to do something else.
Fantastic.
And there's a little bit of my bias coming out there, but that's literally what his page says. Please go read it.
Right, I need you to do the next one too, because I'm assuming that this is what it says. I don't know
It does.
if there's any substance to
So
it.
VA form, the header for that line is "Make the VA great again."
That's it?
That's the header. There is some information underneath it, but it's very general. There's no specific plan to fix it. Again, go look at his page, because it's set up a little bit weird, which is kind of why these points are a little more vague. Not to say it's poorly written, but it's just not organized.
Right, we didn't have a lot to go on. It's not like we're constructing it as an angle to say, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, because, I mean, we don't. You don't need us for that.
Right. What was laid out pretty clearly is his tax reform. He wants to make 4 tax brackets. If you are single and you make under $25,000 a year, you will not pay an income tax. If you are married and the two of you make less than $50,000 a year, you will not pay an income tax, 0%. From there, there'll be 4 tax brackets, 10, 15, 20, and 25%. Whatever bracket you fall into, you pay that. He's going to close all the tax loopholes, and that's how he's going to pay for the rest of the taxes.
Sure. He's also got immigration reform on his website, which I'm sure you hear him talk about all the time in his speeches. He is going to deport all illegals. He is going to defund sanctuary cities, enforce laws, increase border patrol, and end birthright citizenship. And finally, he is also, in regards to the Second Amendment, no gun or ammo bans, period. He wants to fix the mental health area of that, and he wants a military carry on all bases. Basically what that means is any member of the military on a United States military installation
Or recruiting station.
will be carrying their weapon at all times.
Okay, so the negatives about Trump, and I feel like there's many, and my bias is going to come in here. His temperament is a problem. He lashes out. He gets into personal arguments. Megyn Kelly. We had the Spanish reporter that he got upset with.
Pocahontas.
The Pocahontas comment. So his temperament is not professional. A lot of people like that about him because he's an outsider. But I have to say I agree with Secretary Clinton in that he does not have the temperament to be the president. His financial record, while he is very wealthy and arguably a successful businessman, he does have 4 bankruptcies. He has used labor overseas for a lot of his companies,
right,
despite saying that there should be tariffs on products that are made overseas. He hasn't yet released his taxes, saying that they're under audit, even though he could release his taxes, even though they're currently being audited. And he's come under a lot of fire for his immigration stance in general, just because he's saying that there should be a ban on Muslims. And obviously deporting all the Mexicans, building the wall has been an area of vast disagreement with a lot of people in this country.
Even among the Conservative Party alone,
right,
they're pretty against that. I'm going to let you take the next one because you put a lot of work into
this. We found this story yesterday, and it was just really interesting because we haven't heard a lot about it, and certainly none of the mainstream outlets are reporting about it. But all candidates a couple of days ago were required to release their fundraising documentation for the month of May. And someone went through all those pages. There were over 1,600, and they found that Trump's campaign had cut an LLC called Draper Sterling LLC out of Londonderry, New Hampshire, $35,000 in checks. Sterling Draper Sterling, is registered with the New Hampshire Secretary of State to a John Adkins and a former Marine, Paul Holzer, Holzer. Holzer has been involved in multiple Republican campaign efforts over the last few years. I believe there was a race in Kentucky, just kind of as support. The two of them have set up that company. They're also the co-founders of a company called Xeno Therapeutics. Okay, so the two of them also received an additional $3,000 for, quote, field consulting from Trump's campaign. Upon further investigation, the only public mention of Draper Sterling LLC was in an FEC complaint against a super PAC named Patriots for America. They're a federal super PAC, and they're trying to influence the Missouri governor's race. The complaint said that the group had no receipts for any of their disbursements through the FEC. And they also noticed that there was a debt from Patriots of America to Draper Sterling in the amount of $56,000, as in this super PAC paid Draper Sterling $56,000 for, again, quote, business consulting. Patriot for America is run by Paul Holzer's brother, Adam McClain.
That's interesting.
Okay, so directly from the article now, I'm quoting. The number listed by McClain for Patriot for America forwards to a voicemail for Grace's Grantham Cafe, a New Hampshire coffee shop that, according to its website, was supposed to open on Memorial Day. Grace's Grantham Cafe is registered to John Adkins, the same person who registered Draper Sterling. When Think Progress, the organization this article was written by, called Grace Grantham's Cafe directly on the number listed on its website, Adam McClain answered, but McClain's Super PAC filing says he lived in Virginia, so what is McClain doing in New Hampshire when the Super PAC's in Virginia? Asked about his connection to Draper Sterling and what services it provided his Super PAC, McClain said that he had no comment. Asked whether Grace's Grantham Cafe was a real cafe that has opened, McClain said that he had no comment. Asked whether Paul Holzer was his brother, McClain also said he had no comment. McClain said that he didn't find the question relevant. So there's definitely something weird going on within Trump's campaign as to their finance. The campaign then tweeted that they were auditing campaign manager Corey Lewandowski's spending habits and then fired him the next day.
Right.
The Trump campaign told Corey Lewandowski that there was no reason for the firing. They wished him the best, and they fired him. Lewandowski himself said that he didn't know why he was fired.
Oh, boy.
So, a lot going on in the Trump campaign, some weird spending there. I just thought it was a really interesting story, and I was surprised that mainstream media outlets had not picked it up. So, there are the Trump issues and cons.
To be fair, the mainstream media is also talking about Trump's campaign, because in those numbers that came out, a lot of Trump's donations from people who are supporting him, regular citizens, like people of the Conservative Party, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but he took a lot of the money from his campaign donations and put it into his own companies.
Right.
And I feel like that's something that needs to be said. You're talking about a man who says that he's going to make jobs for you and take care of your money and make you more financially secure. And he's the businessman, right? That's probably one of the big reasons he's such a candidate for presidency. Yet your donations to his presidential campaign are getting funded into his company. That's an issue, and I highly encourage all of you to go take a look at that and see where your donation money is actually going.
The next candidate we're going to talk about is the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson.
Please hold your applause. I know you want to. It's Gary motherfucking Johnson.
Okay, so Gary Johnson is the Libertarian candidate. He's the former, it must be noted, he's the former Republican governor of New Mexico. He's known for calling Trump a pussy.
That's a direct quote.
And standing by it. He's also climbed the highest mountain on all 6 of the continents that we have access to.
Damn straight. Gary Johnson.
We know his VP. It's William Weld. He's the former governor of Massachusetts. He was the Libertarian governor. However, he did make a Republican Senate run in 1996. He lost to John Kerry. Gary Johnson, some of his major points from his website. He wants term limits for congressmen. He doesn't want an income tax. He wants a consumption tax. So basically, the more you buy, the more you pay in taxes. And so you don't pay an income tax because you're paying taxes on what you buy.
Right. You're not getting anything back, but you're not paying into it alone in the first place.
Right. He wants to eliminate unnecessary regulations to create jobs. Just generally speaking, he thinks the government is too intrusive in the free market. He believes in a free market. He thinks that removing regulations will help to create jobs. He wants to give people the freedom to do whatever they want as long as they don't harm anybody.
I don't know what that means, but I love it. I just love the way it sounds. You know what I mean?
Basically, you should be able to smoke weed, carry a gun, do whatever you want, as long as you don't cause harm to anybody else.
Right.
He wants to simplify immigration. He wants to allow immigrants to come into the country, give them working visas, as long as they've had a background check, and they will all pay taxes. He believes they're an intricate part of our workflow, and as a border governor, he's seen this approach work in the past. He wants to decriminalize drugs completely, get rid of mandatory minimum sentencing in the justice system, and just repeal unnecessary laws.
Yeah, get the government out of the government. That's what I'm talking about. Gary Johnson.
He supports net neutrality, plain and simple. He doesn't think that the government should have any involvement with the internet. Stop regulating the internet.
Damn right.
Don't regulate anything through the Department of Environmental, the DEA.
Wow. Nice job.
Yeah. He wants to let the market decide the future, as in, if we use fossil fuels, he says that the consumer will basically choose clean energy in the long run, so let that dictate the market, and that should pave the way for more innovation. Just get rid of regulations, and innovation will kind of pave its own way through consumerism.
Right. He also wants to get rid of the Federal Department of Education entirely and give control of the education systems to each individual state, and he also opposes Common Core. He believes in the freedom to choose, but he personally does oppose abortion. He is on record for saying that. And his slogan, his campaign slogan is Google Gary Johnson, and I'm sure a lot of you haven't.
Which I think is a genius slogan,
it's brilliant,
by the way.
And you absolutely should Google Gary Johnson. I mean, you can see his whole history. Check out his website. We'll get to the website rankings in a little bit. But there's also a town hall tonight on CNN. I'm not a fan of CNN, but the town halls are less about the news they're reporting and more about the candidates that they're talking to. Gary Johnson will be there. If you're interested in getting to know who he is, check it out.
That's 9 o'clock on CNN, and he will be with William Weld. It'll be the two of them at that town hall.
Right.
The next candidate, who I had the pleasure of listening to this morning on CNN, it was her first mainstream media appearance today.
Wow, really? She got one?
Yes, she did.
Nice.
Is the Green Party's candidate, Jill Stein. Back to Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson's currently polling at about 15% nationally, which is what you need to appear on the debate stage. Jill Stein is actually polling at 7%, up from 2% last month. So she's the Green Party candidate. We just need to note that Stein offered her position as presidential nominee of the Green Party to Bernie Sanders.
No, we don't know 100% if he declined that outright, but there has been no mention of it since she made that offer, so we're assuming that behind closed doors he said no, he's focusing on the DNC.
Okay, so whereas Gary Johnson kind of falls in between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, between conservative and liberal, Stein is running to the left of Hillary Clinton very much in the way that Bernie Sanders was.
Right.
She's a physician, a medical physician, and she's just an environmental advocate in general. She believes that jobs are a right. She wants to replace unemployment offices with employment offices and help those people to find employment. She wants to end poverty. She wants to ensure every American has access to food, water, housing, and utilities with anti-poverty programs through the government. She wants a Medicare for all, single-payer healthcare system. Which is a step beyond what Obamacare does, more what Bernie Sanders would be talking about. Big news for me. She wants to abolish student debt with tuition-free schools, but she also wants to bail out all students with student debt like we bailed out the economy. She just wants to get rid of all of it.
Wow.
Get rid of all of it, clean slate, bail out the students like we bailed out the banks. So I like that. She believes in a $15 minimum wage. She wants to break up banks that are too big to fail. We've heard this from Bernie Sanders.
Yes.
She wants the fair share of. She wants corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. She also wants to create public banks and utility companies, and create fair trade agreements. Much again, what Bernie Sanders and Trump have talked about.
Okay, that's where we are. She wants to halt climate change. What does that mean?
She just wants to introduce legislature that will stop climate change, essentially,
Okay,
just
so-
better for the environment.
Okay. She wants to label GMOs and moratorium on GMOs and pesticides until they are proven safe by, I assume, the FDA.
I would assume so.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
sweet. Her foreign policy is based on diplomacy and international law. She wants to cut defense spending by at least 50%, if not more. She wants to close the 700-plus overseas bases, stop the U.S. support of arms sales to human rights abusers. She wants to abolish corporate personhood, protect voter rights, and get big money out of politics entirely. So, a lot of big things right there at the end. Specifically, what stood out for me is closing the 700-plus overseas bases. That's a huge statement to make.
Right. Her website said that we are bankrupting the country by funding 700 military bases outside of America. That's her stance.
And I mean, that's fair when you consider how many of those bases are in places where the GDP is higher than our dollar.
Right. So those are all the candidates and their stances.
And again, you notice we didn't say anything negative about Stein or Gary Johnson. There's not enough information out there. You know, we could attack them based on our opinions of their views, but that wasn't the point of this. It was just to state their views and any dirt that may have come up on them. As that develops, we'll probably make note of it.
We'll definitely comment. There's a long way to the election here. So we looked at all these websites. And at the end, I decided, why don't we kind of rank these websites just based on the information they provide and their ease of access and understanding. So we took a look at all four. And we concluded, I
love this.
In rank, the top four. So in fourth place, what do you call that? Fourth place?
The runner-up of the runner-up of the runner-up.
I mean, I guess it's that. It's like I forget. Fucking
bronze. It's less than a bronze medal.
God damn it. I can't think of words today. There's a word for like, basically like, with the participation award, Donald Trump's webpage comes in. Issues we had with Trump's webpage is that the overarching, and these are mainly the topics pages we're talking about. The topics pages were just too minimal. They didn't say anything. And when you clicked on them, there was like a boatload of information, like pages and pages and pages of information that didn't say much of anything.
Right, you're talking about links on websites that take you to policy talking points and what their plans for presidency are. But when you go to Trump's website, you see these major things. Of course, at the top is build the wall, pay for the wall. And as you go down, but when you dig into these, there's no indication of a step-by-step plan in any of these areas.
You can find semblance, but it's nothing
like,
solid.
This is what I'm gonna do, and like I'm gonna give you like a tiny glimpse into the rabbit hole of how I'm gonna do it. But there's no substance. There's nothing that you can sink your teeth into and really look at from an objective point of view, and that gets minus points from us because you have to have some sort of factual backing to get like me to pay attention to your website.
Jill Stein's page, and on her page it shows that she has received no contributions from super PACs, and she's raised about $600,000 total. So with $600,000, Jill Stein's page beats Donald Trump's. There's nothing special about Stein's page. It's well laid out, but it's not doing anything special. So it's good. I do
like that she included her own little personal letter there with her signature. But outside of that,
right,
I'm
mostly
platform. Indifferent towards it because it's got more than Trump, but less than the other two by a long shot. So it's kind of like, okay, I see what you want to do, but still, there's not enough substantial information there.
Okay, coming in second place, even though her page is perhaps the most comprehensive, is Hillary Clinton's page. Clinton's page is good. It's good. You can tell that it's professionally set up.
Right, it's detailed.
It's very detailed. Her small bullet points tell you exactly what you want to know quickly, and when you click, they are comprehensive descriptions of what she wants to do and how she looks to achieve them. And she's probably got over 20 plus issues listed there. Most of the other candidates have maybe 10. Maybe 10.
Yeah, I think Jill had less than
Jill,
8.
Yeah, Trump had like 7.
Yeah.
Johnson's got probably the second most, but Clinton's got a ton. I mean, anything that you can think of, she's got her view listed there. So good page, informative. But our surprise winner, is Governor Gary Johnson, or former Gary of New Mexico. Gary Johnson's page is just kind of awesome.
It's fucking outstanding.
You go to his page and everything is like really minimalistic, and you go to his issues page and just very simple. government spending, taxes, term limits, jobs, personal freedom, foreign policy, national defense, immigration, criminal justice reform, environment, education, abortion, and the right to life.
But when you open them,
it's got his view, why it's important, in some cases how he's gonna fix it, or his just general view on why it should be fixed. Some of them have videos, and he's got this, like, his opening video on government spending, like, there's Gary Johnson talking in his Gary Johnson voice, and, like, he holds nothing back. And I don't know, there's something personal about those videos. And then after the video, there's links to, like, a whole bunch of other videos, like Rachel Maddow's view on him, and, like, a whole bunch of other media outlets. And Google Gary Johnson. Yeah, he's really making a media push, and he's pretty good at it. It's very Obama-esque in his social media approach.
He's just like that guy, and I've said this a couple of times before. Gary Johnson is like that guy who shows up to the party already drunk, and he just starts rambling off about shit. And, like, at first you're like, I don't like a lot of what you're saying. But then the more he talks, you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then by the end of the night, you want to be best friends with him because he's Gary motherfucking Johnson.
So we're going to take the next 5 minutes to kind of give our own personal view of the candidates and get into a little bit of our biases, I think. Just to kind of wrap things up, we'll take about 5 minutes to do this. We'll go 5 minutes over. So I want to start with Jill Stein. When I heard her earlier, I was very impressed with her stances because it's refreshing to hear someone reiterating exactly what Bernie Sanders is reiterating. I'm a big fan of cutting the defense budget. Now, I don't need to see a $15 minimum wage personally, but saying that she'll cut the defense budget 50% and close 700 overseas bases, I think it's great. I think it's going to get rid of a lot of excessive spending. She's a former physician, much like Ben Carson. She's been in the public eye for a long time, though she's little known. But very well spoken, and I don't know too much about her, but just based on issues that I've seen, very much in line with Bernie Sanders. If you're looking for an alternative to Bernie Sanders, and if Bernie Sanders does not run a third-party campaign, Jill Stein is your Bernie Sanders vote.
She really is.
Straight up. If you supported Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein is literally your candidate. If you're a Democrat and you're into party loyalty, and I think I still am, Clinton's your choice, plain and simple, but Jill Stein is your Bernie Sanders.
What I like about Jill Stein is pretty much a lot of her talking points are things that I can get behind. You know, at first I was like, whoa, shutting down every overseas base. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But when you really think about it, we don't need to have bases established there. The money we put in, if we close down just the 700 overseas bases, that 50% cut of defense spending would happen as a result of the money we're not spending, paying those countries. I don't know if you know this. In order for us to have bases established where we do, we are paying those countries for that land. It's just like renting a house, but it's fucking expensive. And the truth of the matter is, if there was ever a wartime situation where an ally needed America's help, which is where 95% of our bases are in ally territories, we would just use their bases for our point of operations. These bases are unnecessary. I've been on them. A lot of them are already closing down. Something like 35 bases in Germany alone were closed down in 2013 to 2014 simply because they weren't being used, but we were still paying. It's something that needs to be evaluated, and I love that she hits that point.
The next candidate is Gary Johnson. I personally don't like Gary Johnson. Just personally, I don't. And I've never understood the libertarian agenda, mainly because I think American corporations have proven time and time again that if you don't regulate them, they're going to do very irresponsible things. I think we all want to think that we can have a free market, but there's so much corruption in corporate America, never mind politics, in corporate America, that I don't think we can trust our banking system, Wall Street, large businesses, to do responsible things with the money that they earn. So I don't trust a libertarian approach to business. I think he has some good points in some other categories, for instance, maybe no income tax with a consumption tax. I think New Hampshire might operate that way already, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not quite sure.
One of the states does. I know that for a
net
fact.
Neutrality, certainly. The decriminalization of drugs and mandatory minimum sentences. We've seen John Oliver talk about that. He does have good points. I like a lot of his social aspects of libertarianism, but I hate the very conservative kind of free market approach to economy. I just can't get behind it. And that's a big enough issue with me that I could never vote for Gary Johnson. He seems like a really nice guy. Maybe he's even a hippie, but he used to be a Republican. So there's some turnoffs there for me as a Democrat.
There's definitely some things lingering on the conservative side for Gary Johnson. I would say overall, right now, as it stands today, on a 4-candidate ticket for the general election, I would probably vote for Gary Johnson. A lot of his economic stuff, like you said, definitely makes me uneasy, but it's something that I would need to see in practice, you know what I mean? And I'm definitely a let's see how it works and then reevaluate it type of person. And you can always do that later on in the presidency, but his social points are so important to me. The decriminalization of drugs, the removal of mandatory minimum sentences. Days ago, a man killed himself in court because he was sentenced like several some odd years for marijuana distribution. Did he break a law? Yeah, but the sentence did not weigh the crime.
Right.
Not by a long shot. You're talking about within the same year that a kid got off on rape because of a fucking good lawyer
6 months.
Bitching from parenting.
Jail will be bad for him.
Yeah, jail would be bad for him. So instead of the 14 years for taking advantage of a woman and raping her, he got 6 months.
Yep.
A man with marijuana got something like several years, I don't have the exact number in my head, and killed himself rather than go to jail.
Right.
That is a problem that needs to be fixed. So when you look at Gary Johnson's social issues, I support that. I support it 110%, and that's why I can get behind Gary Johnson.
The next candidate is Donald Trump. And as you know from this show, I hate Donald Trump.
Fuck Donald Trump!
If you go to my Facebook page, I have a Never Trump profile picture, which is a conservative movement to stop Donald Trump from being the Republican nominee, but I don't care because I agree.
Right.
Listen, I understand Donald Trump is an outside candidate. So I'm not going to say not everything, that everything doesn't make sense. So, some things, especially, I don't get behind his tax reform, but at least he has a tax reform plan that is
comprehensible.
It's comprehensive and it's understandable. It's accessible. The main issue I had with this site is he doesn't have answers for anything.
Sorry.
He doesn't have answers for anything. And you know, Bernie Sanders got crushed for this in the Democratic primaries because they kept asking, what are you going to do, though? What are you going to do, though? And he couldn't come up with answers. Well, Trump is the Republican nominee now. You need answers. Someone on his team needs to come up with some shit for him because he obviously can't come up with it himself right now. He's really dropping in the polls. It's very early, but the media is saying that he's in free fall right now. I think you're going to see a recovery to some extent.
Yeah, he dropped 5% in the past month.
So I understand people are looking for a non-establishment candidate. Please look at Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. Please. They've got more experience. They're better. I'm not going to say better educated, but they're more professional. They're more presidential.
They have less dirt on them.
There's a lot less dirt. I think Trump is a warmonger, personally. And I don't know how he's going to tell other countries to change their laws. I don't think you can. I think we're going to get laughed at.
Right. Look, the only thing that Trump has going for him that I could ever possibly agree with is his tax bracket system. That's something I could look at and say, yeah, I could get behind that. But that is it. That is where the line stops for me. Donald Trump has no substance to any other plan. The only policy he has substance for is the tax bracket, the wall. He has no answers. The banning all the Muslims is, 1, flat out racist. 2, it's not going to happen. 3, he has no plan.
Well, the issue, there is a logic there. There's a logic behind banning Muslims. It's just like, shouldn't that be the last resort? Like there's a lot of middle ground there that we haven't tried yet, so we don't need to ban all the Muslims. Like, if things were getting, like, super, super bad, like we had a terrorist attack every other day and it was all Muslims that were doing it and they were all radicalized and it was like ISIS in America, maybe we should ban all Muslims.
Well, yeah,
but, like, we're not there, so we don't need to be so close to there, man. We don't need to be so extreme.
134 mass shootings in the U.S. this year. 3 have been committed by official Muslims. 3. So explain,
like, they're registered Muslims. They have a card.
So explain the fucking, other 131 mass shootings that are done by white guys. And on a second thought, and we'll talk about this in another episode, why is it that every time a white kid, like that dude who went to the fucking church in Carolina, shot the church up full of black people, saying that black people needed to go, was an isolated incident mental condition, but anytime it's anybody who's Muslim or brown, it's terrorism. You know what I mean? If one is domestic terrorism,
it's just
the other is.
brainwashing.
It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it is bullshit.
And you know what the problem is? People feed into it, but that's not the point. Donald Trump has no substance to anything. He's got so much dirt on him, it's not even funny. And the one thing that people would like about him as a candidate is like, oh, he's the businessman, he can do this. No, he can't. His businesses are failing. He's taking your fucking donation money and putting it into his companies to keep them afloat. Like, you can't trust this guy.
There's a lot of question marks there. And obviously that's kind of our view. Again, I do understand the appeal. I have coworkers, wink, wink, that support Donald Trump. I understand the appeal. I just think there are better options, especially if you're considering the other two candidates who may very well be on the debate stage.
Gary Johnson.
The final candidate is Hillary Clinton. Ugh! Hillary Clinton is not Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton is not Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton is not Bernie Sanders.
Correct.
Hillary Clinton is Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton comes with a lot of negatives.
Yes.
A lot of people don't think she's trustworthy. A lot of people think that women are just going to vote for her because she's a woman. Hillary Clinton has a lot of experience, whether you like her or not. Hillary Clinton has a lot of experience in the public eye. She was a senator from New York. She was Secretary of State. She's presidential material, like her or not. She's intelligent. She's laid out her issues very clearly. She may have flip-flopped, but again, all politicians flip-flop. All politicians, I think, are untrustworthy to an extent. She would have my vote just because I don't want to see Donald Trump in office. And unless Jill Stein, for me personally, can prove she's going to have the numbers to beat everybody, I have to vote for Hillary Clinton because I don't want to see Trump in office. And I don't really want to see Johnson in office, just kind of period. Look, I just don't. That's just my personal view. So I'm going to vote for Clinton because I do think she's intelligent. We share a lot of similar beliefs on the issues, and she's comprehensive about her issues. She's passionate about them. She's done a lot for minorities. She's done a lot for impoverished people in America. She wants to better the healthcare system and social programs, and we saw her go to a little bit to the left, kind of influenced by Bernie Sanders, and I'm glad that she's able to make those types of changes.
There's nothing wrong with a candidate flip-flopping. It's going to happen. It's part of politics. I'm never going to get on somebody for it. You got to do what you got to do to get the votes. My problem with Hillary Clinton is that there isn't enough for me to believe that she wants to do the things she does. When you talk about ending Citizens United, yet a lot of your money comes into and goes out to those same groups of people, it's hard for me to believe that it's something you actually plan on doing. You know what I mean? Like, you say it to get your vote count, but in the same token, you're still receiving money from them, and that immediately makes you distrustworthy in my eyes.
Well, that's where we're going to see if she's trustworthy or not, right? If Clinton gets the presidency and then she doesn't overturn Citizens United and regulate
but
Wall
then
Street,
she's already the president.
Right, but we'll know that the money is influenced, and then she won't get a second term.
Well, obviously, but I mean, I'm not going to debate like the issues. You know, if you want to vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for Hillary Clinton. Just like, for me, my personal opinion is that she does talk a really, really good game, but I've seen nothing to ever indicate that I can trust every single word she says.
Her voice is kind of annoying.
Oh my god, I can't stand her when she talks. I don't know why. Maybe it's just her, but like the End Citizen United thing, the stricter gun legislation is too liberal for me. Like there's a middle ground, and she wouldn't come to the middle of the table for that. The paid family leave for up to 12 weeks. I totally support that. That's a great thing.
Automatic voter registration for 18-year-olds.
That's another great thing. It helps fix the broken system. But, you know, and I'm not even looking at the negatives that we talked about, Benghazi emails, the global initiative and stuff, because as I said earlier, if you don't have definitive proof that someone did something wrong, in my eyes, they've done nothing wrong. That is the way our legal system works, and as an American citizen, I have to support that legal system. I know it's broken, but I work every day to try to fix it, and that's all you can do.
Right, that's all you can do.
I'm all for Gary Johnson right now. Now, what you will see, I just want to put this out there, if Bernie doesn't have anything come from the DNC, which he won't. And we didn't talk about him because he's not a nominee right now. Let's be honest.
Right, he's not a nominee.
Everybody's still for Bernie Sanders, but he is not a presumptive nominee for any candidate party, so we can't include him in this list. But on the topic of Bernie Sanders, when the DNC comes and goes, because nothing's going to come from it, you know, we've already had that discussion about how the superdelegates have never shifted to the one with less pledged delegates. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran as a VP to Jill Stein. Or if Jill Stein dropped down to VP and let him run for president as a Green Party.
Bernie Sanders has said that he won't do it. He won't run with another party, and I think the Democrats could benefit with him as the VP candidate, but I don't even think he's on the short list right now.
No, he's not.
We'll see what happens.
It's all up in the air. But, you know, you have more than just Clinton and Trump, I think, is the big point of this episode. Go to their websites. Look at all of them. Even the ones you hate. Tear them apart if you want. But be honest with yourselves. Go to your candidates and tear it apart.
Right.
You know, I can go to Gary Johnson's, who is right now my personal favorite candidate, not guy trying to be president, and be like, all right, there's a lot of shit here I don't like, but overall, you know, Gary Johnson, you're pretty fucking chill. Let's get a beer sometime. Do that, you know, educate yourselves, because CNN's not going to talk about these guys until they start getting up there in the polling, and besides, you can't trust everything they say anyway.
Well, I'm happy to see CNN having an hour-long town hall with the Libertarian, it might be longer, with the Libertarian candidates.
And that's interesting. So check that out. Check out the websites. Let us know what you guys think about each individual party member. Let us know if you think that we were biased in certain areas. I don't think we were.
And here's my view on that, is that, listen, if you support a candidate, so I'm fine with it. But if you support a candidate, you need to tell me why you support that candidate. And you need to be able to tell me what that candidate stands for. If you're just like, oh, I like this candidate because she's awesome, that's not telling me anything. And it's your civic responsibility to make sure that the vote you cast is an intelligent one.
Yes.
So go to the websites. It's really, Google their name, their website pops right up. Check out their issues. Check out their platforms. It's been really informative. This episode is almost the coffee milk hour.
Yeah, we almost made it to an hour.
We almost did.
In case you guys
45
didn't know that, when we first started, this show was going to be an hour long, but due to our target audience at the time, we cut it down to 30-minute episodes. It's not something we won't reevaluate later for like weekend shows in the future, but that's besides the point. Look, coming up is Freestyle Friday, so it's minute 46 of this episode, and if you're still listening, we really appreciate it. We think that we're doing, you're doing yourselves a service by listening in and following the information and doing the research for yourselves, because you can't have an educated argument just based on what you hear. You got to do the research yourself. Look it up, dig into it, sink your teeth into the information, and make an informed decision. This has been the Coffee Milk 3/4 hour.
3/4 hour, yeah, plus.
And I'm Puffy.
I'm Jerry.
And we'll see you guys for Freestyle Friday.
Later.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have a beautiful time.